Welcome to the second of 7 videos from the Roman Armory lecture on social origins and the process of recruitment. And the second video, I'm going to say a little bit about the process of picking recruits during the imperial era, drawing in part on the legal evidence. Okay, so I will get rid of my face. Okay. So, sorry, I said the imperial era. What I meant to say was much of our evidence, because it comes from law codes, deals with late antiquity. Okay, so this is the era of Aemilianus. He's our third guy, Ducanarius of the Cornuti Seniores, possibly from Dacia, in particular Singidunum. So one of the principal bodies of evidence for military things in late antiquity, especially the 4th and 5th centuries, is something called the Theodosian Code. And there is a possible bust of Theodosius II down in that picture. So the Theodosian Code was ordered and collected and produced during the reign of Emperor Theodosius II, who reigned from 408 to 450 CE. So he is the end point. His death marks the end point, more or less, of the textbook on which the course is based. The code itself, which is this massive collection of material, much of it is letters from emperors to officials. So they are the responses of the government to various state officials who have had specific problems, and by virtue of their response, it more or less comes into law. There's all sorts of debates about what it means to see laws appear at particular times. In a lot of cases, we know, let's say, the day and the year that a law was promulgated, so to speak, or a response became law, more or less. And I say there's some debate of lots of things, including if we see things appearing in the code, does this mean that this is a problem? Or is this more a reflection that things are working, and so they keep on putting in new things to encourage it to improve? And of course, just because you see something in the code and in the law doesn't mean this is what's happening on the ground in practice. But still, we have this body of evidence. It's illuminating, and it provides some fascinating insight. So why don't you take a closer look? Some of the laws that we find in this code and in the law in general do provide us with some knowledge about what the military was looking for when it came to picking recruits. So there were laws about weakness or the condition of the body. It seems your birth status was important. I mean, this is true to some degree throughout Rome's history with the military. You know, being a citizen, not being a citizen, but to some degree, even your background mattered too in late antiquity, what kind of job you had beforehand. We'll come back to that. There are laws that touch on height restrictions as well. So they wanted them to be of a certain height. It's something we're going to come back to. It appears in Thucydides as well. There are laws that mandate or issue harsh penalties to those who self-mutilate with a view to avoiding service. How do you avoid service? You injure yourself so that you can't perform, and if you do this, you get punished. You can see, I should say, all of these lists here. So they have the section in the code where this law is found, and often the year in which it was put into action. So we get a law about slaves being forbidden, which we more or less knew before, but sometimes it's emphasized for reasons that aren't always clear. You know, that certain regions are more preferred than others, and perhaps not surprisingly, in part because of what we know about late antiquity, but also kind of how things work, that they often preferred the new recruits to be the sons of veterans, okay, because of the presumed experience passing through the family line, etc. Now, there are, as I say, that list over there does give you a fairly representative list of the total, and it provides some valuable insight, but of course there's all sorts of things missing. There are surprising things. You know, we don't always know how much it reflects reality, and, you know, it's always worth considering, you know, what isn't there. Okay, so in this case, weakness or condition of body is important, yes, and birth status too, but, you know, how much does this matter when times are tough and more soldiers are needed? And as far as self-mutilation, is this happening in periods when there is an abundance of soldiers? Are they more desperate? So there's all sorts of things that we need to bear in mind as we look at these. Okay, so ends the first video looking at some of the law behind recruitment in late antiquity. The next video, I'm going to look more closely at Vigedius.